boleh katakan begini, dia suka orang Indonesia, dia suka negara Indonesia. She is the only Indonesian-file governor of the state of Hawaii, Governor Linda Lingle.
Thank you very much, Representative Ward. It's great to have you all here at the Capitol for this event. I regret I'm not one of the founding members, but I hope to be a member of this Chamber of Commerce. They are really ahead of the curve when it comes to Indonesia, and I want to talk about how I developed my love affair with the nation and the people of Indonesia. I want to talk about Indonesia, but I want to thank Amin and the others at the newly formed Chamber of Commerce, the Indonesian Hawaii Chamber of Commerce. David, good to have you here as well, and good to see Jim Castle again. You really have one of the great people possible to speak on the subject of Indonesia and Hawaii. Is Jim Castle. And in fact, Jim, I don't know if you remember giving me this, but I actually brought with me the book you gave me when I was there. I was there, the last time I was there was in 2007, and if you open this book, it says written and edited by, and the first person listed is James Castle, but you didn't sign it, so I brought it with me. So I thought maybe I can get that signed. But he is an expert. There's no question. Everybody would look to him to really give us the most up-to-date, most reliable, most thoughtful commentary about Indonesia, about the opportunities for people here in Hawaii. I also want to thank General Lee, our State Adjutant General. He heads up the State Department of Defense. He has also done a tremendous amount for international relations for us. I've traveled with him in Korea, Japan, China, Indonesia, many, many countries, and he has developed some really significant relationships for our state and for our nation in these countries. And I will talk in a minute about this very unique partnership that we have developed. It's a formal partnership between the state of Hawaii and the nation of Indonesia, which on the face of it, think about it for a minute. It sounds so funny. We have 1.2 million people, approximately. We're a small state in America. And this nation of, what, over 400 million?
240 anyway.
We're working on it. 240 million people in a nation the size of Indonesia teaming up with us on this partnership. And it wasn't something that we sought out. It's something that they requested from our United States Defense Department. This partnership program is done between various state National Guards and other nations. It started out on the East Coast when the old Soviet Union broke up. There were some new countries that came into being, and there were similar ethnic groups that were found in those regions that lived in America. And the Defense Department and others thought it would be a good idea if there could be these relationships established. And that's really how it began. But then, as General Lee is able to do, he makes the most of whatever exists. And when the word came that there was a request from Indonesia for us to team up, he asked me what did I think about it. And at the time, he had no idea of my love for this very amazing country. None whatsoever. I think he was so surprised when he came in. I don't know what he thought coming in, but I just had never spoken about my experience in Indonesia. So let me share it with you. First time I went was in 1995. I was the mayor of Maui at the time, and there was a grant that was given to a group called Sister Cities International. And it came through USIA, and the grant was to establish sister cities between American cities and Indonesia. The reason it came about is 1995 was the 50th anniversary of Indonesian independence from the Dutch. And so there was a lot of attention in Indonesia on this year. And so I guess America thought at the time it'd be a great idea to have these sister city relationships. So Sister Cities International chose 5 people apply of us, 5 mayors from America, to go on this trip. And I had no previous knowledge of any kind about Indonesia, no relationship with Indonesia. But one of the mayors who was very big nationally and very much involved in all these issues was Chuck Hazama. Chuck Hazama was the mayor of Rochester, Minnesota, but born and raised in Kahului, Maui. And so he knew that I was here, and he just entered my name without me knowing it. And one day I get a letter, and they said, would you like to go on an all-expense-paid trip to Indonesia? And again, in 1995, I won re-election in 94, so I felt, I had 4 years ahead, maybe it's a good time to go. I hadn't traveled internationally at all in my first term, and I thought, well, I'll go see what it's all about. And I started reading. The more I read, the more I came to understand truly what an amazing country Indonesia is and the potential that exists there. And remember, 1995 was before they had started the move to true democracy, before they had started the move to devolve the government more down to the local level. So it was a very different time than our last visit in 2007. But even at that time, it just struck me this was an important place to know more about. And I did start to read the history of the period when they made the transition. And one of the most fascinating periods for me, because I'm a student of government and history, was how they went about writing their constitution and how they searched the world, both historically and in modern days, for other nation states that had had to write a constitution from scratch. What would it be? What would it look like? And in 1995, when I went there, I was overwhelmed by how much they liked Americans, because that wasn't necessarily what you heard in the press or what the common knowledge was, but it didn't matter where I went. People were very much aware of the history between America and America and Indonesia, and the role we had played at the end of the war in getting the Dutch to grant independence to Indonesia by letting them know if this didn't occur, they were going to be left out of the Marshall Plan and the rebuilding of Europe. People there were very much aware of that history. They were also aware of President Kennedy's effort in the early 1960s to help with the debt that Indonesia had, to get the World Bank and others to, just relax and let Indonesia grow and come into its own and be able to provide its own food and so on. So there was this very good feeling. So it's hard not to like people who like you.